Hey, senor, you ask if we need the sponsor. We don't need no stinking sponsors.
3, 2, 1, 0.
Hey, you! Yeah, you! Come here for a minute. I want to talk to you. Mama says your brain dead, bang your head against the wall.
Ouch.
Peace of mind, brain needs an overhaul.
Overhaul your brain because you're insane. Blah, 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 blah.
Oh, that's done.
Time to lay your burden down.
Views expressed on this broadcast of the Take 12 Recovery Radio Show are those of the co-host and guest and do not necessarily reflect those of our affiliates. The topics and opinions on today's show should not be considered as medical, psychological, or professional advice.
Ain't that
Take
the
12
truth?
Radio is not affiliated with any particular 12-step fellowship.
Praise
and now,
God.
here's your host,
The man,
Ouch.
the myth, the legend.
the Monty Man.
Telling you the truth, man, I ain't gonna lie to you. I won't lie to you, Marv, I promise. Okay. Saved by grace is the name of the game. Turn around, hit the ground. Time to lay your burden down. Lay it down, Tony. Lay it down. Just lay the burden down. Just lay it down. Put it on the ground right now. Just lay it down.
Word.
Welcome to the Take 12 Recovery Radio Show, broadcasting from the studios of KHLT Recovery Broadcasting on the outskirts of beautiful downtown Albany, Oregon. That's a mouthful.
Yes, it was. You did good.
Ooh. So the question has been posed on the social media group, 12 Steps to Freedom, which, let me just say right off the bat that I really appreciate that group. Those guys are very colorful. So questions are asked all the time on there, and people answer them, and there's a plethora of answers.
What's a plethora?
Many.
Oh, okay.
I
didn't know.
So, I mean, there's just opinions. There's just lots and lots of opinions. And don't you know that within our recovery circles, we have opinions galore. People say, I don't want to hear your opinion. I just want to know the facts. Well, sorry. If you're going to get two or more people together, you're going to get opinions. It's just the way it is. So we're going to have a little fun with an opinion today. The question was posed, if you know how to read the big book, do you really need a sponsor? And so I expanded on the question a little bit. If you can read the AA Big Book, or if you can read the NA Basic Text, or any other recovery literature, depending on your fellowship, whatever it is, Alcoholics for Christ, Celebrate Recovery, whatever, do you really need a sponsor? Mm-hmm. So that's the question. And so we're going to talk about that. But before we do that, it's time.
Stop right there.
The baby.
It's time for Buzzman's
The baby.
Weekly Wine.
That's right.
You know, I could just have a whole CD of that baby and be
Of the
happy.
baby. Wah, 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 wah. Oh, sorry. Wah,
Exactly.
wah, wah. So I got a little bit of a wine here. Are you surprised?
I'm not surprised.
No. That has to do with tax preparers, not the IRS, but tax preparers. So we pay $200 to have our taxes done by a professional tax preparer. Mm-hmm. And they say we will, if you have any trouble getting your refund, if you come across a brick wall with anything, we will help walk you through that. Right?
Yeah.
And so we do our taxes. We had Colin go through the same tax people, and everybody has gotten their federal, everybody's gotten their state in our family, except for Colin.
Uh-oh.
And so we went in and said, on the website, on the IRS website, it says, if 8 weeks has gone by and you have not received your refund, there may be a problem. Call this number. So he calls that number, and it says, if 8 weeks has gone by and there's a problem, call this number, which was the number that he originally called.
Oh, my God.
So we called the tax preparer, and she gets on the internet and does the same thing Colin does. We said, well, we know that. We also know that you guys have a little bit more of an inroad to things. Can you help us figure this out? And she says, well, sometimes they're slow. That's just too bad, isn't it? Click. And she hangs up.
Burn her down.
I knew you were going to say that. So I'm like, what? And so Colin is still learning to be a little more aggressive. Sometimes you have to put a sense of urgency in people or let them know you're serious before they'll pay attention to you. And so anyway, so he waited a couple more weeks. Still nothing. So we called the other day. I said, I want to talk to the tax preparer that prepared this, not to his secretary. Well, she tried to sidestep that. I said, no. So we finally got to the preparer. And they said, well, it says here that it's processing. I said, well, that's funny because when we look at it on our end, it says they never received it.
Oh.
And that is on you, Mrs. Tax Preparer. Well, my website says that it's in processing. And then she goes, right now they're having to hand process. And I'm like, what do they feet process normally? And so it's taking longer. And it says on here, if you've gone 12 weeks, and we're going, well, that's funny. We're not looking at the same website. And evidently we are. I don't know what's going on, but I said, ours says 8 weeks. She says 12. And then she goes, there's nothing we can do any more than what you can do.
What?
Okay, she says that. Then she says, if it goes past 12 weeks, call us back and we'll dig deeper. Wait. Brakes. Put the brakes on. You just said you couldn't do anything else, and then you turned around and said you could. Mm-hmm. Right?
Yeah, that's an oxymoron.
Burn them down.
Burn the whole IRS down.
If you've had an experience with your tax preparer like this, let us know.
We'll burn them down.
Oh, my gosh. So that's my whine. It's just ridiculous. You get the run around.
Yeah.
We pay these people to help us. Otherwise, we do TurboTax, right?
That's what I do.
But you could actually get more. I mean, he's going to college, and
Yeah.
so you have to fill out forms for that. TurboTax doesn't do as well with that. So anyway, that's my whine. But you have a win, don't you? Didn't you say last week? You said something about your roommate and clothing. She goes, that's my win.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
So wait a minute.
So now I have to.
We have a winner.
So Tony has a win.
So the same roommate we were talking about in the last show.
Oh,
now I have to like her because.
No, you don't. You just have to like her gifts.
Okay, that's true. Because she gave me, you know how I lost a whole bunch of weight being sick and stuff? Mm-hmm. She actually gave me clothes that fit. So she saved me like $200.
Well,
and I feel like a
sweet.
car insurance commercial every time I say that. Because there was a lot of nice clothes.
Yeah.
Yeah, so she saved me a bunch of money.
She gave me a bunch of money on my car insurance.
Yeah.
Well, that was sweet of her.
Yeah.
But what did I say to you in the post back to you? I said, don't confuse
Oh, don't confuse.
like generosity with somebody actually being responsible.
Yeah.
Because there's a lot of us that are very generous, but we're just as lazy as the day is long. But you never know. But that was nice.
Yeah, that was nice.
Yeah, so
I actually have clothes that fit me now, so.
Yeah.
Some.
Everybody's got good attributes. Sometimes they just need
They hide them very well.
to learn how to implement them in all areas of their lives. I know I've been there. Got anything to win about? Something that's winning, Marv? Something positive?
Oh, sure.
No? Okay.
Tell them about your hike.
Oh, Yeah.
My hike.
Yeah,
What hike?
What hike?
over the weekend.
That wasn't a hike. That was a horseback ride.
That's still a win.
Horseback hike.
Horseback hike.
So you went riding on a horsey.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Yeah. Have you not done that in a while?
Well, I did it about 3 weeks ago.
Did you?
Yeah.
Yeah. So you had a good time.
It was beautiful weather,
Right.
good company,
Yeah?
good horse.
Ah.
Had my dog with me.
Oh, and the dog?
And the dog.
Oh, yeah. Maggie, she had to go.
Aw.
Yeah, that's a win.
That is a
Yeah,
win.
see, gotta take the dog. Next
So-
time you got to take me, though.
Tony's Bo's in the studio. James. Say hi, James.
Hello.
So, James, you have any wins today? Not today. No wins. All right. Nothing to win about. Any wines?
Nope.
No wines, no wins. Okay, that's good. That's fair. All right, so let's see here. Okay, so we're going to take a break. When we come back, we're going to talk about this thing. Sponsors, are they really necessary? We'll see. So don't go away. We'll be back right after these messages.
Hit the ground, time to lay a burden down.
Hey, coming very soon is something very exciting and a little bit weird. It's Cecil Sings with songs like Sweet Caroline,
Sweet Caroline,
Hotel California,
welcome to the Hotel California.
You Got a Friend in Me,
You got a friend in me.
The Piano Man,
Sing us a song, you're the piano man. Sing us a song.
and Cecil's favorite, The Rainbow Connection.
Someday we'll find it, the rainbow connection, the lovers, the dreamers, and me.
Cecil Sings is a collection of iconic songs that are sure to put a smile on your face. Right, Cecil?
That's right, Monty Man. And tell the folks the best part.
Well, Cecil, the best part is Cecil Sings is absolutely free.
That's right, Monty Man. And tell them how they can get it. Go ahead, tell them.
I am. Don't get pushy. Simply go to take12radio.com and click on Follow Me on Podomatic. Once there, sign up for free to our podcast by clicking on the follow button. You can even download our app for iOS or Android, so you can take 12 Recovery Radio on the go. Once you become a Podomatic member, you can download Cecil Sings. Just scroll the page until you find Cecil Sings, and that's it.
And Monty Man, folks can donate to help keep our shows on the air by clicking on the PayPal button or by visiting our main website at take12radio.com. And at the bottom of the page, they can click on the donate button. We would really appreciate it.
So don't miss out. Keep your ears and eyes open because Cecil Sings will be made available very soon.
Very soon.
This is Chris Schroeder. You are listening to Take12Radio.com. Recovery talk and positive music.
Hey, check this out. I know none of us likes to think about life insurance, but as folks who care about our loved ones and what they will be going through in the unfortunate event that we beat them to that front row seat in heaven, wouldn't it be great to know that our final expenses would not be a burden to those that we love? Well, whether you already have coverage and are not sure if you need more, or perhaps you are brand new to life insurance and would like to see what is available for you. Well, the Madison Agency of Albany, Oregon has a solution that will fit any budget, and they'll guarantee your coverage. Here's the number I want you to call. 541-706-0189. Again, 541-706-0189, or visit them online at themadisonAgency.com. Life insurance. Is it uncomfortable? Sure. But through the Madison Agency, it becomes the right thing to do. Dun 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 bum 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 biddly bum biddy bum biddy bum biddy bum. All right, so happy Memorial Day It's kind of weird saying that, though, because when you think of what Memorial Day really is, and let's not get it confused. It's not Veterans Day, right? Memorial Day is when we honor and remember those who have fallen, those who have passed away, that were fatally injured or killed or however, but they have served our country in the military and in one form or another, and they're no longer with us. And sure, we honor our veterans and everything, but it's about them. It's kind of weird to say Happy Memorial Day. Kind of.
There's a lot of them. They say happy this and happy that.
Yeah,
that I think's weird.
It's like Merry. It's like Merry Christmas, because Christmas is Christ, and you know this, Tony, from having a Catholic background, is Christ Mass. So what you're really saying is Happy Massacring of Christ, Happy Crucifixion of Christ Day.
Never thought of it that way.
And so it's weird. It's just kind of weird. But Happy Memorial Day anyway. There you go.
All right.
Hope you have a great picnic. And so I do want to put a shout out. We are at a place about 3 times a year we go through this, and this is our biggie. Some of our bigger bills come due starting in July, and then a whole bunch of them come due in August. So we are at a place where we really need your donations. It seems like everything gets paid, I turn around, and then we're here in August again. So if you would like to pray about it, and maybe God puts it on your heart, or you feel so inclined, if you feel that there's value in Take 12 Recovery Radio, you can donate by going to take12radio.com and scrolling to the bottom of the page, right, Tony?
Right.
And there's a button there.
It says donate.
It says donate.
Donate a lot, it should say.
Yeah. And click on that thing, and it'll tell you how you can write a check, a money order, pay with credit card, and all that kind of thing. Nobody gets a paycheck here. All the money that we receive goes for the upkeep of the equipment and to pay our bills so we can continue to broadcast and all that kind of good stuff. So anyway, there's that. Okay, so the question was raised on social media. If you can read the AA Big Book, and then I added, or the NA Basic Text, do you really need a sponsor? Do you need a sponsor? So before and you guys know I do my homework.
Oh, yes.
Before I get into that, let me kind of get your take on it. Who wants to go first, Tony or Marv?
Go ahead, Marv.
Goathead.
Go ahead, Marv.
So, the question is, do you need, right?
Right.
Yeah.
Do you really need a sponsor? If you can read the Big Book, do you really need a sponsor?
The way I'm kind of looking at it is, do you want a sponsor?
Okay.
Because you might say you need one, but you don't really want one, then a sponsor isn't going to do you much good.
True.
To me, you got to want it.
But whether you want it or not, do you need one?
Do you want to stay sober?
It's kind of a
It's a roundabout question.
It's a huge question because there's so many pieces to this.
And the other part of it is there's really a lot of personal ideas that aren't collective.
Mm-hmm.
The way I look at it.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't look at Tony and think, geez, she don't have a sponsor. She's crazy, or nuts,
right?
Or she's not going to make it. I don't do that.
But I am crazy, though.
And
yeah, with a sponsor.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Crazy like a sponsor.
But to me, like I said, it goes back to the individual.
Mm-hmm.
And if you ask me if I need a sponsor,
right,
personally, I would tell you, yeah, you know what? I do.
So what are some of the reasons why you personally needed a sponsor?
Because, like all of us, when we come in and try to get squared away, I stuffed a lot of stuff.
Right.
And I isolated a lot, and I wouldn't talk. I would react in anger and resentment, and never had the ability to reach out and talk to somebody.
Okay. So that's what you struggle with, but how does a sponsor help you maneuver that?
Gives me somebody to talk to.
Okay.
Somebody that I can...
somebody with flesh on, somebody with skin on, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And if you want, do you remember Jim Bradbury?
Yes.
Well, if you can imagine, he was my first sponsor.
Oh, wow.
And you talk about a relief for me.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, if you ever met Jim, you'd think he was probably, in the comedian union or something. I mean, this guy was funny and seemingly pretty glib.
Right.
Very intelligent.
Right.
But the guy had a heart as big as your desk.
Yeah. Yeah.
And really, in the beginning, he really helped me to start coming out of my shell.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I needed a sponsor. So
some would say, do you have to have a sponsor? Does a person have to be a sponsor to be able to help you with those things? I suppose not. And then we start getting into semantics. What are we calling the person? I mean, so the question was posed, and if you were to look at the chain of responses and the way it was posed and so forth, it appeared to me, and I may be wrong, but it appeared to me to be a little bit of combativeness going on. Mm-hmm. Like, well, if you can read the big book, what do you need a sponsor for? I mean, it was kind of like that is kind of how it felt. I'm not saying that was the intention, but it kind of felt like that. Yeah. And so
it did kind of go off the wall.
Yeah, yeah. Did you look at it? Did you
I kind of browsed through
right.
them, and it went sideways and around and upside down.
Right. So what about you? I mean, what do you think of that? If you can read the big book and understand what it says, do you need a sponsor?
Well, I needed one. Actually, I met my sponsor. It was her second time in treatment, so
right.
she kind of had an idea of the big book, but I didn't know what the heck that book was saying.
Right.
So I needed somebody to guide me through it, and I'm actually on a second sponsor now who I'm starting to do the Red Road this week.
Right, Sharon, right?
Yeah, Sharon.
Yeah.
So I'm excited for that because the first time you get like the skin surface off, and then after talking with Sharon, there's like more that I hid that I didn't realize the first time. Not saying my first sponsor did a bad idea,
right,
or a bad job, because she was excellent,
right.
And we're still best friends, but
sometimes
it's a different way of doing it.
Yeah,
and it kind of brings my faith side and my recovery side all in one.
Sure.
I was just telling James that the other day. So.
Sometimes we outgrow our sponsors. Mm-hmm. It's okay. Mm-hmm. That's all right.
So, yeah, I definitely need one. I'd go crazy.
So the discussion kind of went that, the big book, that's all you need. And if you would apply that to NA, I guess you would say, well, then the basic text is all you need, And somebody made the remark, well, if you can read the Bible, why do you need a pastor? What they did was they saw the name of the show and they assumed that I was the one saying, well, why do you need a sponsor? That's you got to remember something, listeners. When I title a show, that's a hook. That isn't necessarily my opinion. That's just a hook to get you to listen. I mean, broadcasters do it all the time. Mm-hmm. Journalists do it all the time. And so I'm going to share my thoughts on this here in a minute. But so and then one of the things that I said, well, okay. So if I hand you a book on aviation, right, and I tell you to read it, and because you are able to read, right, should I give you the keys to the Cessna 150 and tell you to go ahead and fly around the city? Good luck with that. I mean, just because you read the ground school manual doesn't mean that you know how to apply and implement it. Mm-hmm. Even though you know how to read, do you know how to apply and implement that? Mm-hmm. Probably not. And the remark that came back was, well, sponsors aren't educated like aviators. And I'm like, oh, you're totally missing the point. And somebody else said well, you know, people, they just don't give books out in school. They also have teachers, right? And somebody made the comment, and I'm paraphrasing here, well, teachers are trained with years of experience, sponsors aren't. And I'm like, well, that's not true. You know, I got to tell you, every time I sponsor somebody, every year that goes by in my journey of recovery, I get more training and more training and more training, and you get better at it and better at it, hopefully, right?
Well, I was thinking about it last night too, and I'm like, okay, if I read a book on skydiving, would I just go up into a plane and jump out of it?
Right.
It's kind of stupid.
You would need some guidance.
Yeah.
You know. And then the remark was made that when the book was written, and it was, and this is true, it was mailed out to some folks in hopes that it would take off like a shot, and it failed terribly. There was some motivation to maybe make a little money off of it and that kind of thing, but the main purpose was hopefully this will give some direction to the alcoholic, and they can read it and they can get sober. And so if they were able to do that, why would they need a sponsor? Because they didn't have sponsors at that time. That's a good question. That's a good point. That tends to lead me to believe that it is possible, because it has been done, for a person to read the big book, and God would direct them in a way that they would be able to apply and implement that through his loving grace and his Spirit working in their life with no help from anybody else. Can it happen? Sure it can. There are groups, there are AA meetings, I think they call them loner groups, that are like at weather stations in Antarctica and things like that, where there is no meetings. There's nobody else. It's the one guy sitting by the radio, watching the satellite.
Well, if you think about it, too, in the beginning, it was just Bill and Bob helping, kind of sponsoring each other.
Right. So here's some interesting things. So what is the function of the big book? So if we're talking about, if you don't need a sponsor, just the big book, what is the function of the big book? In Alcoholics Anonymous 3rd edition, it states, to show other alcoholics precisely how we have recovered is the main purpose of this book. For them, we hope these pages will prove so convincing that no further authentication would be necessary. Lack of power, that was our dilemma. We had to find a power by which we could live, and it had to be a power greater than ourselves, obviously. But where and how were we to find this power? Well, that's exactly what this book is about. Its main object is to enable you to find a power greater than yourself, which will solve your problem. Alcoholics Anonymous, page 45. So the main purpose of the book is to show alcoholics precisely how they, and those are the stories in the back and the author, have recovered from alcoholism, and to help you find a power greater than yourself to help you solve your problem. By the way, and I've said it before, if you are in a AA group that isn't about that, you are in a bad meeting.
Yeah.
That is, well, I shouldn't say a bad meeting. That's not AA. You may call it AA, but that's not AA. AA is, that's the purpose of the AA program, which is in the book. So that's the purpose of the book. Now, nowhere, and this is a fact, nowhere in the first 164 pages of the big book does it tell the newcomer or any other member to get a sponsor. It's not in there. You're not going to find it in there. But
I was about to say, hold on.
Let me tell you what it does tell you before I tell you that. Here's a little statement that was in the AA Grapevine. It was entitled The Dilemma of No Faith. Bill W. writes, though 300,000 have recovered in the last 25 years, maybe 500,000 more have walked into our midst and then out again. We can't well content ourselves with the view that all these recovery failures were entirely the fault of the newcomers themselves. Perhaps a great many didn't receive the kind and amount of sponsorship they are solely needed. We didn't communicate when we might have done so. So we AAs failed them. Mm-hmm. Now, that's not in the big book. That was an article Bill wrote in the Grapevine. Mm-hmm. But the big book doesn't talk about getting a sponsor in the first 164 pages. But let's talk about what it does talk about. Mm-hmm. There's a whole chapter written on working with others, right? So are we talking about semantics here? Do you want to call it a sponsor? Do you want to call it a spiritual advisor? Do you want to call it a mentor? Do you want to call it a trusted friend? Why are we arguing about that? Let's look what the big book says, what it is talking about. Any AA who has not experienced the joys and satisfaction of helping another alcoholic regain his place in life has not yet fully realized the complete benefits of the fellowship. That is in AA Sponsorship Pamphlet 1944. So here's a question. What does the big book reference 123 times in the first 88 pages? Got any ideas? 123 times. Answer, alcoholics working with other alcoholics. Mm-hmm. It specifically means two alcoholics working together, putting the AA program, which is the big book, into action. So the big book isn't sitting there by itself on your shelf, you alone, by yourself. Mm. You are with another alcoholic putting the program, the big book, into action. Mm. It is, in my opinion, irresponsible, particularly today's world, to watch a newcomer walk through the doors of any 12-step meeting, hand them the literature or the guidelines to how to apply and implement that program, and tell them, here, go figure it out. That's irresponsible, and it's cruel. Mm-hmm. We are talking about people today that are so sick. We're talking about co-occurring mental health issues, amazing amounts of trauma. We're talking about people shooting up bath salts, snorting weird stuff that changes their brain chemistry. Some people can't even comprehend how to read a sentence. Mm. And you're going to hand them a big book and say, well, can you read? Well, yeah, I can read. Well, then here. And now go stay sober. Are you kidding me?
A good example of that is Bruce.
Absolutely.
Our co-host who's passed away. He came into AA, he couldn't read.
Oh, really?
Right. No, he could not read.
Oh, I never knew that.
Yeah, he couldn't read, and by the time it was all said and done, he read very well. His understanding and comprehension was great.
And why was that? Was he just left to his own devices? No, he had people come alongside of him with the big book and help him. Now, that's somebody that couldn't read. Aww. But what about somebody who can read? Still the same thing. Here's another reason why you need somebody to help you. You ever heard of a period dictionary?
A what?
A period dictionary. A period dictionary is a dictionary that is written with a definition of words used in a period of time that you are not currently living in. So in other words, back in 1935, people talked differently.
Oh, yeah.
So if you take the big book and you open it up, there's slogans and slangs and things that are going to mean something different today than they did back then. And if you don't have somebody that understands the period at the time it was written, you're going to misinterpret stuff. You need help. Case in point, God as we understood him. The author never meant that to be you create God out of your own understanding. Mm-hmm. That's been totally misconstrued and totally twisted. It's you turn your will and your life over to the care of God as, it's an action term, you grow in your understanding of him. And it doesn't matter how little of understanding you have or how much of an understanding you have or who you think God is or isn't or anything. Anywhere is good enough to make a beginning, as long as, provided it makes sense to you.
Yeah.
It says. So, but you can't stay there in the chapter, We Agnostics. You can't stay there. You've got to move on. How do you move on? Just continue to read the book? If I don't understand what's being said, if I don't understand the definitions of some of the terms, I'm going to misinterpret it. I need help. Do you call that a sponsor? You don't have to. The Big Book doesn't call it a sponsor. So in that sense, I totally get the question. But to suggest that we need to be left alone, here's the Big Book, or here's the basic text, and go figure it out, because a handful of people were able to do that back in the day, is that not kind of a cop-out? Aren't we supposed to be helping each other understand this thing? How important is it for AA members to work with newcomers? Our Big Book says, practical experience shows that nothing will so much ensure immunity from drinking as intensive work with other alcoholics. It works when other activities fail. This is our 12th suggestion. Carry this message to other alcoholics. You can help when no one else can. You can secure their confidence when others fail. Remember, they are very ill. So if they're very sick and you hand them a book and say, here, go to the mountaintop and figure it out, and then they drink and you get mad at them? Well, obviously you didn't read the Big Book. Well, nobody offered to help me walk me through it, because you said as long as I can read, I don't need a sponsor. This seemed to prove that one alcoholic could affect another as no non-alcoholic or addict could. It also indicated that strenuous work, one alcoholic, meaning a recovered member, with another, newcomer, was vital to permanent recovery. Alcoholics, 3rd edition. Quote, we have recovered and have been given the power to help others. Alcoholics Anonymous, page 132. Here's another one. But if you are shaky, you had better work with another alcoholic instead. Alcoholics page 102. Helping others is the foundation stone of your recovery. And it's not talking about helping your buddy move his couch. It's not talking about pouring coffee at a meeting. It's talking about working the steps, going through the Big Book. A kindly act once in a while is not enough. Alcoholics 97. Alcoholics Anonymous. So there's a lot, there is so much more to support guidance from somebody who has some wisdom, that has had a spiritual awakening as a result of these steps. And by the way, I will say again, as I've said many times, you cannot have a spiritual awakening as a result of steps you haven't done. So there's so much to suggest that somebody that has got some time, that's got some experience, that has worked the steps, actually sits down with you and helps you to do that. And one of the comments that was made, and they're so on point with this, when I came in to AA, I knew how to lie to myself. So you give me a book and tell me to figure it out, I'm going to make all sorts of compromises. I'm going to lie to myself.
That's a good one.
You bet.
That's
and
a good one.
Without some guidance, without somebody that can call me on my stuff, right? I'm going to justify all sorts of things. Hey, it says in there I could go to an old-fashioned whoopee party.
I forgot that part.
Right?
It does say that.
Well, without some guidance,
it doesn't say that. But
I may run with that one.
Oh, that part cracks me up every time I hear it.
And by the way, an old-fashioned whoopee party is not the same today as it was back then.
No.
There's just so much more to support, Now, is that really a valid term, sponsorship? I don't know. I mean, when I first heard sponsor, I thought, somebody that helps pay for my race car. I mean, but there was a time. I mean, there's a part in working with others where it talks about, you may give them a job. You may actually give them a place to live and stuff like that. You know what I mean?
But not live with you.
Right. Well, actually, in that case, they did.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
That usually doesn't work out.
We found that to be true more times than not,
Yeah.
that it doesn't work out well. But you know, I don't know. I just think sometimes people want to argue stuff. I mean, I don't care if you call me a sponsor, a mentor, a spiritual advisor, or a trusted friend. I don't really give a rip. My job as somebody that has been doing this thing for the decades that I've been doing it is that when somebody reaches out and asks for help, and even sometimes before they do, that the hand of whatever fellowship that you're in is there to help them walk through the recovery process. There's something to be said about accountability, making ourselves accountable to somebody, giving somebody permission to yank on our chain anytime they think we're going off the rails. That's the necessity, whatever you call it. What do you think, Marv?
Well, I was just sitting here thinking, you know, where the big book and all the principles that are in there, again, people want to deny this and not look at it in a true fashion, but where did they come from, those principles? And they came from the bigger book.
They came from the Bible. They came straight from
Yes.
God's Word. You bet they did.
And it's indicated in the big book.
Yeah.
It's indicated in Bill's story. And so what it says in the big book, if you want to rebel against having counselors or sponsors or whatever,
Right.
it says there's wisdom in a multitude of counselors.
Amen.
And also,
And that comes right out of Proverbs.
well, in a couple
Places actually. Yeah.
And the idea that was a misconception I had about my life personally is I had to depend on myself for survival. It was a matter of self-defense.
Right.
Well, when I came around to the realization that my way isn't working, and Jim Bradbury came into my life. In fact, the way this came about was Jim came up to me one night in a meeting. We were outside smoking.
Yeah.
And he come up to me, and like I said, the guy, he was great.
Right.
And he was a short guy, and he looked up at me. I'm not very tall, but he had to look up at me. And he says, you know what? He says, I must be your sponsor because you never call me. And but the thing that he didn't know is that the month or 3 months, whatever it was before that, AA had started working on me and started me realizing I can't do that. No man is an island unto his own self. I can't, I go in, and I still have this problem today, but not as bad. I go into me, I wouldn't talk to anybody. And I always sat with my back against the wall.
Right.
I didn't want people, like, if we were in a meeting right now and James was sitting right here, I'd probably move because I didn't want people. So there was a whole lot of stuff going on, and part of the wisdom that comes in AA, it comes from the bigger book.
You bet it does.
And people who rebel and get mad when I don't need this and I don't need that and I don't want to and all that, it's principles that are spiritual principles that are falling into play when you go along with them.
You bet. You bet. So I don't understand. I mean, I think one lady said, why would I want to do this by myself? Why would I want to do that? So I guess if you can read and if you have high comprehension levels and you know the period in which it was written and you know intuitively how to apply and implement everything that's in that book, why in the world would you even need it? If you are that smart. And then my question is, if you're that smart, maybe you're too smart to get it. Can you imagine sitting, and Chris Schroeder talks about this a lot. Can you imagine sitting in a, what's some of the different math classes that you can take? Geometry, that's math, right?
I think so. I am horrible at math.
Okay. Let's see.
Trigonometry,
right? Can you imagine
algebra.
sitting in a class every day at noon and listening to, because somebody said, well, just reading it doesn't work and just listening doesn't work either, by itself. And they're right. Can you imagine sitting in that class and listening to the lecture over and over and over again and never cracking the book, never doing your homework, never studying and doing the assignments, and then wondering why in the heck you failed the final? I went to the class. I listened to the teacher. I go to meetings. I listen to the speaker. Do you do the work? Well, I don't. I read it on the wall. I think it's one of the most biggest injustices we do in meetings is hang those things on the wall. I get why we do it and everything. It's kind of an icon, but what are we doing? I mean, if I'm just going to the class and listening and hearing other people talk, but I never cracked that book. Okay, so now let's say I decide to crack the book. And I'm told, all right, take it home, read page 42 to 102 and come back.
Oh,
and I'm reading this, and I've never taken this class before, and I'm looking at this book sideways. I need some guidance. I need some help. And so, are these good comparisons? I think they're fair comparisons. I do. If you're sick and you come into a place that offers wellness and there's direction to do that, and they just hand it to you and tell you to figure it out, that's criminal. I just think it's criminal. Now, I am not saying that when they originally sent this book out that they were being neglectful by not sending a sponsor along with each book. That's not what I'm saying. But we learn as we go, right? So we learned that just sending the book out didn't fare well.
Yeah.
So people came alongside each other, one alcoholic helping another, and it got better. And the fellowship grew. The fellowship didn't grow because we had a piece of literature and we went into our quiet place and just sat there reading it. It grew because one alcoholic helped another alcoholic. What's it say here? Helping others is the foundation stone of our recovery.
I think you told the story about building a house on a sand or a rock.
Right.
Wasn't that you?
Yeah. Yeah. If you build a house on the sand,
yeah, that's it.
The ocean's going to eat away at it and it's going to fall down. If you build it on a rock, it's going to be stable when the storms come.
So that's the sense of the foundation.
Well, yeah, it's the foundation. The foundation has got to be key, right? But if you don't know how to build a foundation, you're going to be like a kid trying to build a tree fort without dad. You're going to get hurt. If you give me a hammer and a bunch of nails and tell me to build a house, but you don't show me how to do it, it's going to be a mess. And sponsors, spiritual advisors, mentors, trusted friends, they do have experience. They do have training. Many of them have been going to conferences, AA conferences, and training seminars, and they have classes on leadership and GSR and ASR and sponsorship and all. They have that stuff, and people go to it. They learn. There's things called group inventories that are taken sometimes if a group goes sideways. I mean, there's all these elements.
Are they really?
Oh, yeah. There's all these elements that help organizations like Alcoholics Anonymous, the Rotary Club, the Boy Scouts, churches, synagogues. They have these elements that involve each other, not just the printed word. We need each other to work with each other. So I'm kind of like, get over whatever you want to call it. But if we're not working with one another and helping and being accountable to one another, I don't think it's Alcoholics Anonymous. I don't think it's Narcotics Anonymous. I don't think it's Celebrate Recovery. I think we're just doing our own thing.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what got me in trouble before. I was just doing my own thing. I'm my own God. Thank you very much. Any closing thoughts, Tony?
Not that I can think of. Just
Okay.
go get a sponsor.
Yeah.
Just do it.
And if you want to call
like Nike, just do it.
If you want to call it something else, call it something else. But make yourself accountable. Bring somebody alongside of you that can love on you. When somebody you trust that you can call and you can work through this stuff. Trying to do this by yourself. I mean,
again, I know people might get tired of hearing this, but
yeah.
You reference back to the bigger book, to the Bible.
Yeah.
And part of what you see in there, when Christ sent out the disciples,
Mm-hmm.
He didn't send them out by themselves.
No.
They needed each other.
Yeah.
And it's just so many examples. God looked down at Adam and says, it's not good for man to be alone.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
So, even as dumb as I am, I had to come up with, I need help.
Sure. And if all we need is the book, then why are we even going to meetings?
Mm-hmm.
Right? Why do we go to the campouts? Why do we have service conventions? We don't need all that stuff. All we need is a book.
What's the saying? If you're working with yourself, you're working with an idiot.
Yeah,
That's one of my
sponsoring
favorites.
yourself.
Yeah. That's one of my favorite sayings.
And we sometimes we don't even realize we're doing it. Justifying that kind of thing. And we need people in our lives that can say, hey, I think maybe you may want to rethink that. Monty, you may want to just look at that. I need those kind of people in my life. I don't care what you call them. Maybe 100 years ago, they'll call them, do you really need a if you can read, do you need a I mean, what the heck? Who cares what you call it? But we got to work with each other. We need each other. All right, so there we go. I'm losing my voice, and the listeners are going, probably a good thing. All right, so so next week, the Monty Man and his beautiful wife will be in Maui, vacationing for the first time in 28 years of marriage.
I'm excited for you guys.
I am excited too. And don't worry, we're nowhere near the volcano. It's really funny because you look on this little map that was on the internet. It says what people think is happening in Hawaii, and there's this island, and it's just overflowing with lava everywhere. And then they have a picture. This is what's really happening. And it's just this little tiny stream. It's not like what some people think. Roger McDermott was over on the main island. He couldn't even see what was going on.
Yeah.
So the trade winds keep all the toxic fumes and everything out to the ocean. They don't even come our direction. We're like 140 miles away from it anyway, so don't anybody freak out. Because I'm getting email like, you shouldn't go. You should cancel your vacation.
Don't
I
cancel.
said, I am not. 28 years to be able to
This
do
is your honeymoon.
Yeah, it is, because we never went on one. And so thanks to our wonderful son who surprised us with this and paid for it. And Roger McDermott sent us a gift card so we could have a good time over there. And,
Aww.
yeah, we are really, really blessed. Listen, folks, we really do need your financial support right now at Take 12 Recovery Radio. So please pray about it and think about it and donate if you can. I don't know where my voice is going, but it's going. So before it's gone completely, Tony, tell people, I'm going to hand it to you. Tell people, where is it? There it is. There you
Want me
go.
to read both of them?
Yeah, you can read both of them. Tell people how they can listen to the show.
Okay, you can listen and download any of our shows by going to take12radio.com and clicking on follow me on Podomatic. I cannot read today. Once you're there, you can download our app for Android or iOS. You can comment on the shows, love us or hate us. We would love to hear from you either way. Oh my goodness, I need to start reading again.
That's right. I'm losing my voice, and you're Yeah.
You
we're
can
kind of a
also
mess.
listen to the shows.
I don't want to tell you what's going on with me.
That's why I need a sponsor.
Yeah.
You can also listen to the shows on our YouTube channel. Simply go to take12radio.com and click on the YouTube icon. And if you would like to send us an email, or our email address is take12radio@comcast.net. That's take12radio@comcast.net.
Yay!
I need more coffee.
You need more coffee?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, there's more out there. All right. Our closing song is by Cameron Springer. This was sent in to me by a listener, and I appreciate it so very much. This is his first song he's ever released, and it's about an opiate overdose and kind of talking about the opiate crisis. So check this out.
I know I felt this way before. Broken down, knocking on death's door. Won't let me in, no matter how hard I try. What is the meaning of my life? Woke up again in this foreign bed. I'm wondering why I'm not dead. I can't stay away, no matter how hard I try. I'll be back by the end of the night. My heart feels so cold and sore. I can't live like this anymore. You're on my mind all the time. What is the meaning of my life? My life, my life. I feel so trapped when I'm with you. Love, hate, relationship, nothing new. Right where you want me, right in your clutch. No matter what I get, it's never enough. You've broken my heart once again. I've been told to leave you by most of my friends. Can't stay away, no matter how hard I try. I'll be back by the end of the night. My heart feels so cold and sore. I can't live like this anymore. You're on my mind all the time. What is the meaning of my life? My life, my life. Got a feeling that I'm going down, and you'll say you'll pick me up, but my face has hit the ground. I think that I've had enough. I got a feeling that I'm going down, and you say you'll pick me up, but my face has hit the ground. I've had enough of feeling so cold and sore. I can't live like this anymore. You're on my mind all the time. What is the meaning of my life? My life, my life, my life, my life.
Cameron Springer with his song My Life about opiate overdose and the opiate crisis. And listen, you can get more from Cameron by visiting him on Facebook at I Am Cameron Springer. Now, this is spelled Sprenger. It's pronounced Springer, but it's spelled Sprenger. Also, follow him on YouTube. Just type in Cameron Springer, and on Instagram at I am Cameron Springer. Remember, it's SPRENGER. Hey, listen, if you've been around the rooms a while, if you've had a spiritual awakening as a result of these steps, and you see a newcomer, somebody coming into the rooms for the first time, and you want to give them a big book, that's great. But please be prepared to either work with them yourself or point them in a direction of somebody with some experience that can help them maneuver this book. Remember, sometimes people are very sick, and it's very difficult for them to comprehend something that maybe have been written many, many years ago. There's certain words, there's certain phrases they may not understand. We all need some guidance. Be that guidance. Be that hand of AA or NA or Celebrate Recovery. Be the change you want to see in others. Don't leave people out there to do this thing by themselves. Until next time, this is the Monty Man along with the Take 12 Recovery Radio family, and we're wishing God's perfect serenity for you. Bye-bye now.
This has been a broadcast of KHLT Recovery Broadcasting.
Cause she's a super cat, she's super kitty, meow.
Yeah, kitty, 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 kitty. Meow.